Ethan had never expected to find himself in the heart of an alien palace, let alone standing in a grand hall filled with beings whose very shapes and colors seemed to defy logic. The walls glowed softly with a shifting iridescent light, and hovering platforms carried servants and couriers effortlessly from one end of the room to the other. Everything felt alive in its own strange way. The floors seemed to hum beneath his feet, and the air shimmered faintly, like the palace itself was breathing. He adjusted the sleeve of his uniform nervously. As a human diplomat and medical officer, he was trained for unusual situations, but nothing in his career had prepared him for a court where every step felt like a performance. The beings around him moved with a grace and authority he could only describe as alien elegance. Their eyes, sharp and bright, watched him as though weighing every thought and intention. At the far end of the hall, standing atop a raised platform, was Queen Elyara. Her presence was impossible to ignore. She was taller than most of the court members, her skin a soft silver that seemed to glow under the palace lights, her eyes deep and knowing. Her expression was serene, yet it carried a weight that made everyone around her pause. Ethan had read reports of her intelligence and her decisiveness in leading her empire, but seeing her in person made the descriptions pale in comparison. As the formal ceremony continued, Ethan observed the queen with careful attention. She moved gracefully, but there was a subtle tension in her posture, a small stiffness in her shoulders and neck. Her hands moved delicately as she acknowledged the court members, but Ethan noticed the slight wince when she tilted her head. Years of experience in observing body language told him this was not mere fatigue. It was discomfort, the kind that made even someone of immense power distracted. He shifted slightly, uncertain. Offering advice to a monarch of any species was dangerous, but his training as a physician sometimes outweighed caution when human decency and skill could make a difference. He took a slow breath, choosing his words carefully. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice calm but confident. "I hope you forgive my forwardness, but I notice tension in your neck. If it would help, I can demonstrate a technique to relieve it. It is safe and gentle." In this empire, humans were outsiders, curious, yes, but often underestimated and sometimes mistrusted. To speak so directly to the queen was audacious. Ethan felt a small flicker of apprehension, but he maintained his stance. Queen Elyara's gaze shifted toward him. Her eyes, which seemed to see everything, softened fractionally. Then she tilted her head, studying him as if assessing the weight of his words. "You are bold human," she said. Her voice was smooth, almost melodic, carrying an authority that made Ethan straighten instinctively. "Bold enough to notice my discomfort and bold enough to offer a solution in front of my court. That is unusual." Most would have simply observed and remained silent. Then unexpectedly she smiled, a faint curve of her lips that seemed almost mischievous. "Very well," she said. "Come to my chambers later. I wish to see if your skills are as confident as your words." Every move he made now would be scrutinized by both allies and skeptics. He nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will arrive at the appointed time." His mind, however, buzzed with questions. What would her chambers look like? How would he demonstrate a massage in a way that was appropriate for a monarch of a culture so different from his own? And most importantly, how would he navigate the invisible political currents of her court without causing offense? For the rest of the day, Ethan observed the palace closely. Every corner seemed to hold some secret. Every hallway whispered with the quiet hum of alien technology. He walked past gardens suspended in midair, their plants glowing faintly in colors he had no names for, and corridors lined with paintings that shimmered and changed when viewed from different angles. The beauty of it was overwhelming, yet he remained focused. At sunset, he finally made his way to the queen's chambers. The door slid open before he could knock, responding to her internal command. Inside, the chamber was spacious and elegant, but not ostentatious. Soft light reflected off the walls, creating a warm glow that contrasted with the bright, formal halls outside. A garden of alien flora grew in a corner, its plants swaying gently even though no wind blew. The air was fragrant, calming, and somehow alive. Queen Elyara stood near a raised platform at the center of the room. She wore a simple robe that allowed for comfort without sacrificing dignity. She looked relaxed, but Ethan could still see the stiffness in her shoulders. "Sit if you wish," she said, gesturing toward a low seat. Her tone was friendly, yet carried the weight of authority. "Show me what a human physician can do." He spoke in calm tones, describing what he was doing and why it was helpful, while making sure every touch was appropriate and professional. Queen Elyara responded with a soft sigh of relief. I must admit, I did not expect this human to have skill. You have surprised me, Ethan. It is a small gesture compared to the burdens you carry as a ruler. Humans, perhaps because you see things differently, notice what others miss. They are clever, yes, but cautious. You are direct. That is rare. Boldness can be dangerous, but it can also be valuable. There was a curiosity in her eyes, a spark of recognition that perhaps humans were not as fragile as many in her empire believed. As the session ended, the queen leaned back slightly, a rare gesture of relaxation for someone who carried the weight of an empire. You have my thanks, Ethan. You have done well. Perhaps we will have further opportunities to work together. He realized that the Queen's invitation had opened a door, not just to a private meeting, but to an understanding between species that few humans had ever experienced. Back in his quarters, Ethan reflected on the day. His boldness had been rewarded, yes, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. The palace was full of observers, some friendly, some wary. Every interaction mattered, and every decision could shape the way humans were seen in this alien empire. Yet, despite the tension and uncertainty, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had offered help where it was needed, and he had been trusted to step into a space few humans ever entered. That trust, fragile as it might be, was a bridge, one built not with force or influence, but with observation, skill, and genuine care. He allowed himself a small smile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, he felt a rare sense of accomplishment. The Queen's nod of approval, the softness in her expression, and the spark of curiosity in her eyes were rewards beyond measure. And as he looked out at the glowing spires of the alien city beyond the palace, Ethan knew that his journey was just beginning, and that humanity might shine in ways even the galaxy had not yet imagined. Ethan entered Queen Elyara's chambers again the following day, a little earlier than the hour appointed. This time, he felt a small sense of confidence, not arrogance, but a quiet readiness. He had observed the court closely and knew that preparation mattered as much as skill. Every gesture, every word, could influence how he was seen in this alien palace. The chamber was just as he remembered it. Softly glowing walls, floating lights, and a small garden of alien plants that swayed gently as though breathing. The scent of the flora was calming, a subtle mix of sweet and earthy aromas. The queen herself stood near the raised platform, her silver skin glinting in the warm light, her posture still slightly stiff but commanding in every way. "Good," she said, noticing his early arrival. "You are punctual. Humans are often praised for your reliability, yet I have encountered few who truly understand the meaning of it." "Then let us begin," she said, gesturing to the seat. "Show me what you can do, human. I am curious to see if skill comes with your bold words. If at any point it is uncomfortable, please tell me immediately." The queen exhaled softly, the slight shift in her posture signaling relief. "It is remarkable," she said quietly. "Most advisors offer words, not action. They do not notice the small tensions that accumulate in a ruler's body. You humans see what others overlook. A leader carries responsibilities beyond what the eyes can see. The body shows stress even when the face does not." He explained some human practices of relaxation and health, describing methods that were both scientific and practical. The queen listened with a quiet fascination, asking questions about why humans train their bodies and minds together and how they balance stress and work. "You are curious, Ethan," she said at one point. "Most humans only care for their own survival or for trade and politics. You speak of wellness, of care, of understanding. These are not weak qualities. They are wise. Perhaps other species have different methods, but respect and care remain universal. You make me see humans in a new light. You place value on thought and planning," she observed, "yet also on trust. I notice that even while performing these tasks, you are aware of the potential for error and you adjust accordingly. Few in my court do this naturally. I respect you, your majesty, and my methods reflect that. Perhaps this is why humans survive in environments that others fail to understand." "You are unlike any other human I have met," she said finally. "You combine knowledge, skill, and respect in ways rare among your kind. Most of your species are cautious and clever, yet few show the depth of thought you exhibit. Humans survive because we learn from every encounter, your majesty. Each being, each experience adds to our understanding. Perhaps in your empire this is not always necessary, yet I have learned much from observing you as well." I am not accustomed to having humans close, yet I find your presence enlightening." The queen seemed relaxed now, a rare softness in her expression and posture, yet the authority she carried remained intact. After some time, Ethan stepped back and allowed the queen to adjust. "Your Majesty, it is important to note that relief is temporary unless supported by posture and mindful movement throughout the day. Small practices can prevent future tension. Perhaps that is why your species survives in places where others fail." The queen asked questions, listened intently, and occasionally offered insights of her own, creating a conversation that was both educational and engaging for both of them. Time seemed to pass differently in the chamber. Hours could have been minutes. The palace outside was a distant hum. For Ethan, this was more than a session. It was a window into a culture unlike any he had known, and a chance to demonstrate human value without relying on dominance or deception. For the queen, it was a rare moment of openness, a chance to see the potential of a species she had long underestimated. As the session drew to a close, Queen Elyara leaned back slightly, exhaling with a soft satisfaction. "You have done well, human. You have eased my body and challenged my mind. Few in my court can claim even one of those achievements. I'm glad to be of service in ways that are both safe and meaningful." He had been accepted, not just tolerated. He had shown skill, professionalism, and humanity, qualities that could influence perceptions of his entire species. Before leaving, he took a final look at the chamber. The alien plants, the glowing walls, the serene presence of the queen, all of it felt less intimidating now. He understood that trust, respect, and careful observation were as important as any skill in a place so foreign. Humans could survive here, even thrive, by remaining adaptable, thoughtful, and courageous. As he stepped back into the palace corridors, Ethan felt a quiet determination. This was only the beginning. Tomorrow might bring new challenges, but he knew he had earned a small foothold in an empire that had seemed unreachable. And with that foothold came opportunity, not just for himself, but for humanity to demonstrate its worth in ways that went beyond trade, diplomacy, or diplomacy alone. Ethan walked through the glowing halls with a steady pace, his mind alert and observant. Every whisper, every glance, every subtle shift in the palace could carry meaning. Yet for the first time, he felt not only alert but connected. Connection to a leader, connection to a species, and a growing understanding that even in the most alien places, human skill, empathy, and wisdom could shine. As the sun, or what passed for a sun outside the palace, began to dip behind the distant spires of the alien city, Ethan knew that this session had changed him as much as it had changed the queen. He was no longer merely a visitor in her court. He had become a participant in a delicate balance of trust, skill, and mutual respect. And that, he realized, was the first true step toward proving that humanity could be remarkable, even on a world far from home. The palace was quiet that evening, the soft hum of energy fields and distant mechanical movements creating a calm rhythm. Ethan walked the halls with purpose, carrying the knowledge of the trust Queen Elyara had placed in him. Yet beneath that calm, there was a tension he could not ignore. He had learned to notice small details, glances that lingered too long, shadows that shifted oddly, and the faint vibrations in the palace floor that hinted at movement above what was normal. He rounded a corner and paused, his eyes scanning the corridor. Most courtiers had already retired to their quarters, and the palace lights glimmered softly along the walls. A flicker of movement caught his eye near one of the side entrances. At first, he thought it was a shadow or a trick of the light, but the motion repeated, a subtle ripple, deliberate and cautious. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He crouched slightly, approaching silently, careful to remain unseen. As he drew nearer, he could see a small group of figures attempting to bypass a security gate. Their movements were precise but hurried, clearly not part of the palace staff. Ethan realized immediately what it was, an infiltration attempt, not random, deliberate, rebels or spies. His heart quickened, but his training as a physician and strategist had taught him to stay calm in moments of sudden danger. He activated a small communicator hidden in his uniform. "Security alert. Unauthorized personnel detected near the east corridor. Proceed with caution," he whispered. The device sent a silent signal to the palace's central system, but Ethan knew it might not be enough. Infiltrators could move faster than automated responses. Immediate action would be necessary to protect the queen. Turning, he made his way to the queen's chambers. He found Elyara reviewing her maps of the empire, her expression calm but alert. "Your Majesty," he said quickly, There are intruders in the palace, a small group skilled and coordinated. They are not palace staff. Follow me. She led him to a hidden passage, known only to the royal family and a few trusted aides. The walls shimmered and shifted as she pressed a small emblem, revealing a narrow corridor that led beneath the palace. Ethan followed closely, studying the technology around him. The passage was illuminated with soft lights that adjusted automatically to movement. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone, and the sound of the palace above became muted, distant. He felt the thrill of tension mixed with admiration for the queen's calm in the face of danger. "Why did you trust me to navigate this?" he asked quietly as they moved. "Because humans think differently," she said. "You notice what others miss, you act without panic. Many in my court would hesitate, uncertain of protocol or tradition. You adapt. That is valuable in moments such as this." As they emerged into a lower chamber, a small observation port revealed the intruders moving cautiously through the corridors above. Their forms were shadowy, their movements deliberate. Ethan recognized some of their tactics, patterns he had studied in security manuals and from human training exercises. "They are scouting for weaknesses," he whispered. "If we act too early, they might retreat and find another way. If we act too late, they could reach more critical areas." The passage had control panels that could adjust light, lock doors, and redirect energy fields. "We can use these to slow them down, confuse them, and create safe zones for evacuation." The intruders paused, confused by the sudden shift in their path, unsure which route led forward and which led to a dead end. "They are cautious," Ethan noted, "but they are not used to adaptive tactics. Every species has predictable behavior under stress. Lead them where we want, not where they expect." She listened and followed precisely, adapting quickly to the humans' instructions. Finally, the intruders were trapped, unable to move forward or retreat without being detected. Security personnel arrived moments later, alerted by Ethan's initial signal, and took the intruders into custody without conflict. The palace was safe once more. The queen exhaled softly, her shoulders easing in the moment of relief. "You acted decisively and without hesitation," she said. "I have seen courage in many forms, but the human way, it is direct and effective. You have my respect, Ethan. Strategy and skill are useless if the person we protect is harmed." Humility, he knew, was as important as courage, especially in a palace filled with observers. "I am honored, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary." That insight alone is valuable to me and to my empire. Ethan, for his part, saw her in a way no other human had, capable, intelligent, yet not invincible. She was a ruler, but also a being who could benefit from guidance, perspective, and alliance. "Do you understand now why I invited you to my chambers?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. It was not only to demonstrate skill, but to observe, to understand, and to trust. And now I see that trust is mutual. There is much we can learn from each other, and much that can be achieved through cooperation. Tomorrow may bring new challenges, but I am confident that humans can meet them if they continue to act with clarity and integrity." As he prepared to leave the chamber, the queen's voice stopped him. "Ethan," she said softly, "remember this. Courage and intelligence are admirable, but patience and observation are equally vital. Many in my court will watch you closely, some with suspicion. Do not let their doubts undermine the value you bring. Humans are underestimated, yes, but underestimated humans often accomplish what others cannot. But today, you have proven that humans can face danger with skill and wisdom." As he walked through the palace, he reflected on the day's events. Humans, he realized, could thrive not just through brute force or cleverness, but through careful observation, courage, and adaptability. These were qualities that the alien court often overlooked, but ones that could make the difference between survival and failure. And in that realization, Ethan felt a quiet hope. Trust had been established, respect had been earned, and for the first time he saw the potential for humans not just to exist in this alien empire, but to shine, to be valued, and perhaps even to teach others the quiet power of courage and understanding. The palace lights glimmered softly around him as he made his way to his quarters, each step a reminder that humanity's future in this strange and distant world was not fixed by prejudice or fear. It was shaped by skill, wisdom, and the quiet courage of a human willing to act when others hesitated. And tonight, Ethan knew, humanity had taken one more step toward proving its worth. The morning light filtered softly through the palace windows, casting a gentle glow across the chambers. Ethan arrived early, not out of nervousness this time, but because he understood that in Elyara's court, every moment could carry weight. He had learned a great deal over the past 2 days. Observation, patience, and humility were just as important as skill or courage. Queen Elyara awaited him in her strategy room, a large chamber filled with holographic maps of the Empire. Stars, planets, and trade routes rotated slowly in three-dimensional space, highlighting the vastness of her domain. Walls were lined with consoles and devices that Ethan did not fully understand, but he had begun to grasp the logic behind them. "You are early," she said, her tone calm but commanding. "Good. Time is a resource often wasted by those untrained in its value." "I would not waste either my time or yours, Your Majesty. We must anticipate, adapt, and respond." The rebels from the previous day had been a small fraction of what could threaten the palace, and Ethan understood that quick thinking and creativity would be necessary to strengthen defenses. "Your Majesty," he said, "humans often rely on adaptability as much as force. Predictable patterns can be observed and exploited, but unpredictable actions and creative solutions can change the outcome of a situation before it escalates. For example, yesterday's intruders were skilled, but their methods were predictable because they expected our response to be linear. By adapting quickly and using the environment, we turned their advantage into a trap. Others in my court would have delayed, argued over procedure, or attempted force without understanding the situation. Humans seem different, bold yet cautious. Then perhaps humans and my advisors are not so different in principle, though approach varies. Your methods have merit. I wish to incorporate them into broader palace strategy. Can you assist with that? By studying both human and alien systems, we can develop a hybrid strategy that strengthens defenses and anticipates threats before they occur. Unlike traditional palace strategy, which relied heavily on hierarchy and protocol, his methods emphasized observation, anticipation, and rapid adjustment. "Notice here," he said, highlighting a trade route connecting several outer planets. "This route is lightly monitored because it is considered low risk. However, it is predictable. A small force could exploit this to approach the palace undetected. By introducing variable patrols and randomizing sensor sweeps, we reduce predictability and increase security without unnecessary resources. Flexibility allows us to respond to unforeseen threats. Humans call it adaptability. It has been a key reason for survival in environments far more hostile than this palace. Your methods are not just effective, they reveal a mindset that values both intelligence and observation. This is insightful. Perhaps together, we can strengthen the Empire in ways previously unconsidered." They created contingency plans, layered defenses, and adaptive strategies that accounted for both known risks and unexpected variables. Each successful solution reinforced the Queen's growing appreciation for human ingenuity and reasoning. At one point, a minor alert flashed on a nearby console, nothing serious, but enough to remind them that vigilance was constant. Ethan analyzed the data immediately, suggesting a minor adjustment to sensor arrays that prevented false alarms while increasing the palace's situational awareness. The Queen watched silently, clearly impressed. "You notice details others might overlook," she said softly. "That, combined with your decisiveness, is remarkable. Humans in general are underestimated in my court. Perhaps because you are adaptable, you thrive where others hesitate. These qualities are rare, even among my advisors. I wish to observe your methods, learn from them, and integrate the principles where appropriate. Humans may indeed have wisdom to offer beyond their small numbers." In a court where human presence was often tolerated but not fully trusted, this statement represented more than praise. It was recognition of humanity's potential to influence, protect, and strengthen an empire far larger and older than his own species. As the day progressed, Ethan continued to refine strategies with the Queen, combining human reasoning with alien systems. They created multi-layered defenses, contingency plans for unforeseen attacks, and simulations that accounted for every variable they could anticipate. Each success built trust, not only in his methods, but in the very idea that humans could be more than outsiders. They could be valued partners. By evening, the strategy room was filled with holographic displays of the Empire, each system mapped, monitored, and prepared for potential threats. Ethan felt satisfaction, but he also understood the responsibility. With knowledge and trust came expectations. Expectations he was determined to meet with skill, observation, and integrity. Queen Elyara studied the final projections carefully. "You have transformed these plans," she said. "Not with force, but with understanding, foresight, and adaptation. Your presence here proves that humans are capable of influencing even the most complex systems of governance. This is impressive. Strategy works best when multiple viewpoints are considered and integrated." The day had demonstrated not only his skill, but also the potential of humanity to thrive in alien circumstances through observation, reasoning, and cooperation. As they concluded the session, Queen Elyara stood and regarded him with a rare smile, one that was both approving and sincere. "Ethan, you have shown more than skill. You have demonstrated the essence of humanity: adaptability, observation, courage, and wisdom. These qualities will serve you well, and may serve my empire as well. Prepare for tomorrow. The empire is vast, and threats, though distant, are constant. But I have faith that humans, with their unusual perspectives, can contribute far beyond what many believe." Human ingenuity, he realized, was not limited to survival or technology. It extended to trust, adaptability, and insight in ways that could influence even the most ancient and powerful of empires. As he walked toward his quarters, he reflected on the past days. Humans had faced danger, demonstrated skill, and built trust where few believed it possible. In Elyara's court, perception mattered as much as action. And for the first time, Ethan felt that humans were not merely tolerated, they were valued. He understood now that every observation, every careful choice, and every action could shape the future of humanity in this alien world. And with that understanding came determination. Trust and cooperation had been earned, but maintaining it required skill, humility, and unwavering integrity. Tomorrow, challenges would come again, as they always did in an empire as vast as Elyara's. But today had proven one undeniable truth. Humans, though few in number, could shine brilliantly when observation, courage, and wisdom were combined. And in that brilliance, Ethan saw a path forward, not only for himself, but for humanity as a whole, in a universe that had long underestimated the quiet power of his species. The palace was alive with energy, though not the quiet, controlled hum of routine. Today was different. Today, the halls thrummed with excitement and tension as news of the foiled infiltration spread throughout the court. Courtiers and advisors moved quickly, exchanging words that carried both relief and astonishment. Somehow, despite being human, Ethan had become the center of attention, not for arrogance or politics, but for skill, intelligence, and calm decisiveness. Ethan walked through the corridors with measured steps. The palace seemed both familiar and vast at the same time. He had learned more about its systems, the routines of its inhabitants, and the subtle intricacies of alien protocol than he ever thought possible. Each step reminded him of the trust he had earned from Queen Elyara and the quiet responsibility that accompanied it. When he reached the strategy room, the queen was already there, standing near the central holographic display, her silver skin reflecting the soft light. She turned as he entered, her expression both serious and approving. "Ethan," she said, "come closer. Today the court gathers not merely to celebrate, but to witness the proof of human potential. Your Majesty, it is an honor to serve. Today the Empire will acknowledge what I already know, that humans are capable and worthy allies. Your presence here, human, is testimony to what can be achieved through courage and intelligence," Queen Elyara continued. Ethan stepped forward. He had faced uncertainty, danger, and alien skepticism, and he had proven that humans could navigate each with skill. The queen raised her hand, and a holographic display shifted to show the events of the previous days: the infiltration, the clever use of palace systems, and the successful containment of intruders. It was a neutral, factual record, yet it spoke volumes about the human who had acted decisively while others hesitated. "Let this be recognized," Elyara said, her voice carrying through the hall. "Humans are often underestimated for their size and numbers, yet, as today has shown, the qualities of observation, adaptability, courage, and strategic thinking make them invaluable. Ethan has demonstrated this not through force alone, but through thought, skill, and integrity. Let all witnesses here understand the value of cooperation with humanity." Recognition was not the goal, it was the result of competence and respect. After a brief pause, Queen Elyara gestured toward him again. Ethan, you have not only demonstrated skill but also the essence of humanity. For that, you have my personal trust and the gratitude of my empire. This recognition is not symbolic, it is tangible. Your species will now be considered as a capable partner in our endeavors. Let this day mark the beginning of a new understanding. Humans have survived, adapted, and thrived in countless environments across the stars. Today, you have shown that even within the heart of my empire, your species can shine. Here, the atmosphere was calm, reflective, and slightly more personal. You have proven much, the Queen said softly. Yet there is more to leadership than tactics and strategy. You have also shown patience, observation, and respect. These qualities, human, are rare among your species in this form, though I suspect they exist widely, waiting for the right circumstances to be recognized. When trust is given and opportunity arises, humans can rise to meet challenges that might otherwise seem impossible. Perhaps we have underestimated your species for too long. You have proven that your species can stand among the best, if not by numbers, then by ingenuity, insight, and courage. That is a strength that cannot be ignored. Ethan offered suggestions on communication protocols, strategic observation, and contingency planning. The Queen listened intently, sometimes questioning, sometimes approving, always engaged. As the discussion concluded, the Queen rose and regarded him with a rare combination of warmth and respect. Ethan, you have earned not only my trust but my admiration. Your species, though often underestimated, has qualities that can change the course of history. Remember this: courage, observation, and integrity are more powerful than weapons or technology alone. You have demonstrated this today. I hope to continue proving that humans can rise to any challenge with wisdom, patience, and courage. But know this, human: your place here is secure, earned not by rank or title, but by action, judgment, and character. The Queen's trust, the respect of her court, and the acknowledgement of human capability represented a milestone far beyond any personal achievement. Walking through the palace corridors, Ethan reflected on how far humanity could go when given opportunity and trust. Observation, courage, adaptability, and wisdom were traits that allowed humans to survive, thrive, and even influence civilizations far beyond Earth. The events of the past days had proven that. Outside the palace, the alien city glimmered under the evening sky, spires of light stretching toward distant stars. The city was alive, but so was the potential of humanity within it. Humans could survive and thrive, even in worlds where they were few, underestimated, or different. Their ingenuity, careful thought, and courage allowed them to shine where others might falter. Ethan paused for a moment, gazing at the city. Trust had been built, recognition had been earned, and the future now seemed full of possibility. Humanity's presence in the empire was no longer symbolic. It was real, valued, and respected. Returning to his quarters, Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. The past days had been challenging, intense, and filled with lessons about diplomacy, observation, and courage. Yet through it all, he had proven that humanity's strengths were more than physical endurance or technological skill. They were intelligence, adaptability, and the capacity to act with integrity when it mattered most. Queen Elyara's words echoed in his mind. Humans shall not be dismissed or overlooked. You have demonstrated qualities that can change the course of history. As night fell over the alien city, Ethan rested, confident that the trust he had earned was more than personal. It was symbolic of humanity's potential to thrive, adapt, and contribute in even the most distant and unfamiliar worlds. The future was vast, uncertain, and filled with challenges, but he knew that with courage, intelligence, and integrity, humans could not only survive, they could shine. Tomorrow, the Empire would continue, its challenges renewed, its possibilities endless. And humanity, represented by one careful, observant, and courageous diplomat, had taken its first true steps toward recognition, respect, and influence among the stars. Ethan closed his eyes with a sense of quiet pride. He had arrived as an outsider, underestimated and unfamiliar. He now rested as a trusted ally, respected not for arrogance or dominance, but for skill, intelligence, courage, and the quiet strength that humans carried wherever they went. And in that quiet strength, both he and the Queen knew one truth: humanity had earned its place, and it had proven that even in a universe vast and strange, courage, adaptability, and integrity could shine brighter than the stars themselves.